Hi there and welcome. This is Jenna from McGuire. Lately I've been using layered background dies. These are 2 or 3 dies that are the size of a card that you cut and layer on top of each other for beautiful results. However, I know layered background dies are expensive. They have a higher price point than most of our crafty supplies. So I thought it might be beneficial if I showed you 6 ways to use background dies creatively. I actually asked folks over on my Facebook page if this was something they would be interested in, and almost everybody said they would. And even if you don't have layered background dies, I think today might inspire you to use other dies you may have creatively. And since I'm sharing 6 ideas with you today, I'm going to have to move through the cards quickly, but I will focus on the techniques with the layered backgrounds. I will be using 2 sets of layered background dies. The first is the layered medallion dies. I have die A on the left and die B on the right. I will also be using the Altenew layered floral background dies. We have A here on the left and plate B on the right. So these are sold separately but are intended to be used together. And as you'll see in this video, they would look great on their own too. Now, the first of the 6 ideas is to incorporate dry embossing with one of your background dies. If you look closely at this photo, you'll see that the second layer there is impressed. It looks like a faux letterpress and not actually die cut. For this example, I'm using the medallion background dies. I'm taking plate B and I'm just going to die cut this one as I normally do from light pool cardstock. The nice thing about the medallion A and B plates is you could put A on top or B on top. It doesn't matter and you get different results either way. Now with plate A, I'm not going to die cut plate A. Instead, I am going to do an impression or dry emboss it. So this is plate A. I have a piece of darker pool cardstock. I'm going to open up my platform for my Big Shot to the platform that I use for embossing folders. So whatever die cut machine you have, you just want to set it up to do an embossing folder. You put down your cutting plate, then you're going to use an embossing mat. Now this mat has a little bit of give to it, so when I put this down and then put paper on top of it and then put my background die on that, it prevents the paper from getting cut. Instead, it causes the die to just leave an impression on the paper. So I'm going to run this through how I would an embossing folder, and you'll see I end up with cardstock with a beautiful impression. It's a nice dry embossed image. So now I'm going to trim this one down to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So now I need to adhere the die cut background on top of the embossed. I like to use a strong liquid adhesive for this. However, you can use a glue pen or you can use a glue stick. You could even put stick-it adhesive on the cardstock before you die cut it to make it easy to adhere. I like to use the Ranger Multi-Medium because it's super strong and it won't, I use the matte finish so it won't show if any of it oozes out. I also like that a little goes a long way with this adhesive. When I'm done putting them together, I put something flat over it and then something heavy, and I give it a few minutes to dry. I then cut a vellum strip and added white die cut letters from this new Altenew alphabet die set. I also white heat embossed a sentiment from this Hug Me stamp set from Altenew, and I wanted to keep everything simple from here on out since that background is so beautiful and intricate. At this point, I'm just trying to figure out where I want this oriented, and I thought it'd be fun to do it at a diagonal. So I'm putting some strong double-sided tape on the back of the little layered background panel that we put together. And then I will wrap the vellum strip around it. And I'll just fold around the sides, and that adhesive on the back will keep those flaps there. Then I can trim off the excess, remove the rest of the release paper on my double-sided tape, and put that on the front of a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch note card. Now these background layered dies didn't take long to use at all, and you can see how quickly you can create an elegant card. I did decide to use a white gel pen to put little dots here and there on the background. And here you can see the beautiful texture that you get with this technique, and remember you can switch the plates and create a different looking card. This brings us to idea number 2, and that is to do faux die cut inlay. I'm a big fan of die cut inlay, and that's where you do die cutting of different colors of paper and fit the pieces back together like a puzzle. Well, if I did that technique with these backgrounds, it would take a long time since it's so intricate. So this technique kind of fakes it and gives a pretty similar look. So I'm using, again, the Altenew Medallion dies A and B, and I'm going to cut from light cardstock and a dark cardstock. And I've also cut a piece of medium color cardstock to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so I can layer these on top of each other. Before I glue them together, I wanted to show you the two different looks you get by layering the dies in a different way. So you can see they're completely different, but you can do either way. So what I'm going to do is use a little bit of liquid adhesive again, just a little dot here and there in the key parts of the background, and I'm going to glue them on top of each other on that background panel. Now remember, these die cuts have a frame around the outside, so you could use your tape runner on that frame if you wanted to. So I'm gluing these on top of each other, and then I'll put something heavy on it to give it a few minutes to dry. Now here's the trick to faking the die cut inlay. I have a piece of thin typing paper. I'm folding it in half and putting my layered piece inside. Now I'm running it through my die cut machine as I would if I was just doing regular die cutting. And what happens is it smooshes it down and almost embeds the paper into each other and kind of gives the look of die cut inlay. It really attaches it nicely and smooths it out. You can run it through a few times to really flatten it, but be sure to use that typing paper so you don't leave an impression from your cutting plates. Here I die cut a circle from vellum, added my die cut letters and a heat embossed sentiment, and put a little bit of shimmer pen on the vellum so it has some extra shine. And there you can see how it really has flattened it out and given you a kind of an inlaid look. Okay, so next we have idea number 3, and that is to cut out a portion or a pattern from your layered background die cuts. This time I'm using the Altenew layered floral dies. So there is an A plate and a B plate, and I'm going to cut out part of the flowers and the leaves, and this really worked well with this one. I used the floral plate A to cut from light coral and light green cardstock, floral plate B to cut from medium coral and medium green, and then I just cut a dark green and dark coral 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch background piece. So I glued these on top of each other, and I end up with two backgrounds that are beautiful, but we're going to cut out parts of them. From the coral, I'm going to cut out a couple flowers, and from the green layered piece, I'm going to cut some leaves. Now notice I'm really only using half of each background, so I'm going to save the other half so I can repeat this for another card. Now this particular layered background has pretty obvious shapes. We've got the leaves and the flowers. However, you could do the same with any layered background. Say it's the pattern that I used, the medallion pattern that I used earlier in this video. You could just cut out a circle area or a star kind of area. Okay, so now that I've cut out my pieces, I'm going to use some foam tape to add the flowers, and then just some regular adhesive to tuck the leaves behind the flowers. And you can see how I'm kind of piecing these back together as they were meant to fit together on the background. But I have a completely different look because we cut up the portions. I also stamped a sentiment from this Altenew Halftone Circles stamp set and kept the rest of it very simple. And I love the texture that you get and the completely new look you get by cutting part of the pattern out. This brings us to idea number 4, which is similar, and that is to die cut a window from your layered background. This is a good one because it results in 2 cards from one background. I actually only turned one of the pieces into a card to save some time, but I do have that extra piece for another. Now I went ahead and create my layered background here using the Altenew Medallion A and B dies. And you can see for the top layer, I used silver glitter paper, which really adds a lot to the background. Now I'm going to die cut a shape from this. I'm going to use a heart so that I end up with a large heart and the negative space. But you could use a word die, a circle die, a rectangle die, anything you want. So after I've die cut this, I have 2 pieces, the heart and the negative space that I can use for 2 different cards. I added the heart to a white note card and then added a white heat embossed sentiment on a black cardstock strip. The sentiment is from the Altenew Butterfly stamp set that you see there. But remember, I can create a second card with the negative space too. So you can get a completely different look from your layered background dies by die cutting out a portion of it. So now we have idea number 5, and that is to create your own masks or stencils using your layered background dies. This technique is so much fun to do, and you can make a bunch of them very quickly if you wanted to. So I have some Inka Dinka Do masking paper. This is just thin paper with a temporary adhesive on the back. So you can put it down, ink over it, and then remove it and use it a few more times. If you do not have masking paper, you can just cut your dies from just thin typing paper and use that and just hold it in place as you create. So I cut from masking paper both the Altenew Floral A die and the B die. I'm first putting down the A masking stencil here, putting it onto some coral cardstock, and it'll just hold in place while we do this. I'm using Abandoned Coral Distress Ink to add some color over this, and an ink blending tool. However, you can use any inking tool and any ink for this. I wanted a tone-on-tone look, so that's why I'm sticking to this color family. I did go in then and add a little bit of darker color just to the center of the flowers with my Distress ink in the Fired Brick ink color. Then I can remove this mask. It's beautiful as is, but wait until we use the second mask on top of it. This time I'm just going to use the darker color, the Fired Brick ink, and just ink over that. And you can see how fast this is. You could use a variety of colors on white. You can do whatever you want and use the masks a few times. Now when I take this off, we have the look of dimension, but this is a perfectly smooth one layer piece. I then trimmed it down and added it to a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch white note card. I added the word hugs using the Altenew alphabet dies and a thin strip with a white heat embossed sentiment. Very simple. When you have these great layered background dies, you don't need to do much to the rest of the card. Okay, so now we have our idea number 6, and this is simple. This is just to use things other than cardstock for your layering. Now, so far I've been pretty much just layering regular colors of cardstock. Here I used some gold foil cardstock and some vellum, and it's pretty cool, the results. So I cut from the Altenew Floral B die some vellum, and then I sprayed it with some shimmer spritz and heat set it. So now I have shimmery vellum, and it really is beautiful in real life. You could just use regular vellum if you want to. I then wanted to show you how using a gold cardstock is beautiful with intricate dies like this one. Isn't that gorgeous? I decided not to use that piece. I just wanted to show you, but it would be beautiful on any color cardstock. Instead, I'm just using a solid gold cardstock panel. On top of that, I'm putting the vellum and then just plain white cardstock. But you could use glitter cardstock, foiled cardstocks. You could use like a craft or textured cardstock, anything you want for your layered background dies. And check out how gorgeous that vellum is on that gold foil cardstock. So try layering different things that you have, even coloring your vellum if you want to. And I just kept a simple sentiment in the center. Didn't want to take away from this too much. I'm going to make a few more this way because I really like the look of the vellum on the gold. So there are 6 very fast ways to use layered background dies. There are so many other things you can do with these. I hope this inspired you. If you want to see more videos that are similar, they're there in the middle. All my products are linked below in my YouTube description. Be sure to go to my blog. There is a lot of information there, and hit subscribe if you haven't done so yet. I really appreciate you spending time with me, and I hope to see you again soon.